Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. I'm here from my North Vancouver bunker. Uh, like most of you, I suppose I've been staying at home, and you can tell that by my pandemic hair. I'm getting to the point where I'm seriously considering getting my dog to take a shot at cutting it, actually, because it's getting ridiculous. But anyway, enough of that. We're here today to listen to a presentation by Chris Taylor and Bob Singh from Great Bear Resources. If you're a shareholder or someone who's been following the story, you've probably seen one of these webinars before. I've got to say, in all honesty, that this pair of guys does a better job of this than just about anybody. More than one shareholder has said to me that Chris, once he's done with Great Bear, should probably be giving courses to other CEOs in communications, and I actually don't disagree. He's very good at that, and that's part of Great Bear's success, but it's not the main reason. You know, Great Bear is obviously a fantastic story. The stock's done amazingly well. I think it's got a lot of amazing left in it, and the reason for that is obviously the Dixie property. Dixie is sort of in, but not within the red light camp. Uh, an interesting thing about Dixie was that when it was originally picked up by Great Bear, you know, it was considered to be outside of the red light camp. That's part of the reason why Dixie was available. It didn't appear to fit the traditional model. The rock types did not appear to be the same. They were similar, but didn't appear to be the same as the units that host most of the high grade mineralization in Red Lake. Uh, obviously, obviously, Chris and Bob had some ideas about what they thought was going on. If you look at the outline of the property, it's pretty obvious that they staked it to cover the entire what's called the LP fault. LP stands for lithoprobe. The LP fault is a 15 to 20 kilometer deep crustal fault. There's two of these in a red light camp. The other one happens to host most of the high grade gold, or is adjacent to the high grade gold in the original Red Lake gold mine. The assumption being that these deep crustal faults were the fluid pathways. Now the LP discovery was, of course, we were sort of well into things by the time that came along. I think for me, what's more interesting is really how I got on this story in the first place. Chris Taylor, bless his heart, promoted me on it several times over the course of a year and a half. It looked interesting. It was certainly cheap. That was definitely an attraction for me. It had a very tight share structure. Even trading at 40 or 50 cents, there wasn't a lot of market cap because of that. Uh, my concern at the start was really that, well, there were a bunch of high grade drill intercepts here and there. It didn't look like things hung together. And really, this is where the meticulousness of Chris and Bob Singh comes in, because what really sold me on this was Chris and Bob, in doing field investigations, realized some of the hole collars were not where they were supposed to be when they looked at the map and they looked at the physical location. There was substantial differences in some areas between the two things. So what Bob and Chris did was they went back and they did gyroscopic surveys of the hole collars, all the ones where they could actually find the physical hole collar. And in doing that, they got rid of the discrepancies that can get created when you've got problems with too much magnetism in the rocks. It throws off your compass, essentially throws off your compass readings. These gyroscopic surveys aren't affected by magnetism. So they basically found as many collars as they could. They corrected the locations. They went back to the drawing board, put all this into a 3D model, and that's what they showed me about, almost 2 years ago now. And I was quite shocked when Bob walked me through the Dixie Limb 3D model based on their correction of the drill hole collars, because they knew that part of my issue with it before was that although there were a bunch of good numbers, they didn't seem to hang together. When they completed these corrections, they showed me a 3D model of a zone that did in fact hold together quite nicely and was actually quite obviously a linear, steeply dipping zone, had some high grade shoots in it, basically classic kind of Red Lake stuff. I didn't think the zone was going to be fantastic in terms of grade, at least in that area, but there was clearly going to be enough ounces there that the thing made sense. And that's really why I started following the stock. It wasn't long after that they delivered a couple of bonanza holes from Hinge. That really got people excited. It brought in quite a bit of new money at a much higher price. The chief money coming from Rob McEwen. Obviously, Rob's backing of the stock and his publicly getting behind it and writing a big check. That got a lot of people on Bay Street interested, and the rest, as they say, is history. But it's important to understand that a big part of the success here, arguably almost all the success in this deal comes from very meticulous scientific advancement of this property. They've gone step by step. They weren't afraid to step out and look at new things. The LP zone, which is the current focus, was an entirely new discovery on their part. But as I said, if you go back to the original Dixie property outline, what they added not that long before I started following it, it's pretty clear they were thinking that LP was important. It's not a coincidence that the property is shaped the way it is. As it turned out, they were right. They've made discovery after discovery. Right now, this is looking like an extremely large mineralized system. Anybody who wants to can take the data they put out, because they've made a point of putting out shape files and all of the coordinates you need with the drilling to start building your own models if you want to. It's not difficult to come up with numbers in the 5 to 10 to even plus million ounce range if you so desire. To me, this simply looks like a project and a company that's pretty much a laydown when it comes to being a takeover target. I will personally be surprised if this stock is still around in a year. And I appreciate the fact that management went to the effort of doing a spin out of a 2% royalty. That's something that doesn't have a lot of value right now, but it potentially has a lot of value down the road. I don't think they'll do anything with it unless there is in fact a takeover. But I think given the obvious scale of this project, the location, the logistics, I would be very surprised if every tier one and mid-sized major on Earth essentially isn't under CA already. Obviously, they're not going to tell me because they're CAs. That's why they call them that. But I think probably everyone is looking over their shoulders. I have no idea what the trigger is going to be for a particular mining company to decide they've got to make a move on it. But I am very, very comfortable Great Bear is going to be taken out probably within the next year. And I was actually very pleased to see these guys do another financing. They've got the money now to really accelerate things as much as they want to once the COVID restrictions are lifted. I don't think you're going to find a more straight up, technically adept team than this one, nor one that genuinely has shareholders' interest at the forefront and has done everything they can to keep the stock as tight as they can and reactive to good news. And of course, there's been plenty of good news. You come to the right place if you're going to watch Bob and Chris follow me here on this webinar. I would definitely pay attention because it's a great group of, and it's a great project and a great company. I'm really happy that Chris finally twisted my arm hard enough to get me onto this thing and buying the stock myself a couple of years ago. Take it away, boys.